It's not 2 cops anymore, it's like 6 cops now, and everybody's lights are going off, and this is startling him. Of all of the Ferrari supercars, 288 GTO, F40, F50, Enzo LaFerrari, the craziest story has to be the FBI F50. So this story starts with a car owner who's going through a divorce, and he needs to split up his collection to divide assets. So his F50 is on consignment at Algar, serial number 103494. And that's where this story, that's where all of the craziness begins. Some guy shows up, he's interested in the F50, he looks the part, he looks like a guy who's there to buy a car. He doesn't show them anything, he doesn't prove anything, he doesn't give them access to bank records, he doesn't show them a license. He talks the best game ever, and he convinces them to let him test drive this F50, one of 349 ever made, one of 50 some odd cars in the US. So they take this car out, and the salesman is driving the car for, let's say, the first 10 minutes, showing the guy how to shift it and steer it and what's good. And they pull over, and they're about to switch seats. The salesman gets out. He goes around the back of the car, maybe the front of the car. The guy in the passenger seat, he jumps up, and he jumps into the driver's seat, and he puts it in gear, and he takes off. This car disappears. Everyone thinks it's going to Asia or South America or Africa. They think that this car is gone, it's with some drug lord or some crazy person, and we will never see it again. And all the while, for 5 years or so, it was quietly being driven right here in Middle America. I've been tracking Ferraris for 20 years now, or almost 20 years now, and a lot of it comes from people who contact me and say, hey, I just bought this car, this is the serial number, you know, here's the information so you can update your records, this is the current mileage, etc. Some people contact me before they buy a car, and they say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about buying this car, and I'd like to know what you have on it before I pull the trigger. So when this car came up for sale, a gentleman in Tennessee contacted me and said he wanted to buy it. His name is Jazz Beer, and he sent me the VIN with a different serial number, 104359. And when I looked it up in my database, it was blank. As it turns out now, we have learned it is a right-hand drive F355 in Australia. But at the time, it was completely blank in my database. And I was so excited to add this hitherto unknown F50 to my database that I'd never stopped for a second to just run the VIN through a site like redheaded.com to confirm that the check digit was correct. When he first sends me the VIN, I was super excited. I had an F50, this was an F50 about which no one else knew. Everybody who collects Ferrari serial numbers knows all of the F50s. Ferrari made 349 official cars. There are, I think, 389 total with a bunch of post-production prototypes. But when Jazz sent me this VIN and I look at the serial number and it's blank in my database, I was beside myself. No one else had this F50. I was so excited. Instead of just looking up the VIN, I immediately put it in my database and put it as a new F50, and that was a huge mistake. Since I had no reason to intervene, since I wasn't mature enough to stop and check the VIN to make sure the check digit was correct, I left it alone and I told Jazz, hey, I don't have any history on this car, but good luck with the purchase. I hope everything goes well. And that was in May 2008, and 3 months later, he bought the car, and he was trying to get it registered at the DMV. He was trying to register it with the Ferrari Club of America, and there was some suspicion and some investigations, and it was determined that the car was stolen. So Jazz reaches out to me on 13 May 2008 about the car, about wanting to pull the trigger. Exactly 3 months later, 13 August 2008, the FBI has possession of the car. They've arrested the gentleman who stole the car and had it for sale and sold it to Jazz. They've taken possession of the F50, during which one of the agents decided when the car needed to be relocated from one facility to a courthouse facility, instead of transporting the car, one of the agents decided he would get into the car and drive it there himself. So without any experience on how to drive a Ferrari supercar, on cold, old tires no less, he takes this thing out and he mashes the gas pedal and he spins the car and cracks it so hard that he cracks the tub. So not long after this guy in the FBI crashes this car, I get a call from Jamie Hoxie in the Justice Department regarding the car. She wants to know the value of the F50 before it was crashed by this FBI agent and the subsequent value of the F50 after an FBI agent completely destroyed it. So I gave her what information that I could. After the FBI concludes their investigation of the theft of the F50, they put it up for sale. Because it's destroyed, it's damaged, the tub is damaged, it's done. It only sells at Copart for about $340,000, which is about, I guess, half the value of an F50 back then. Either the original owner who was consigning it at Algar, or Algar, someone's insurance still wanted to recoup what they lost when that car was stolen. So after the FBI crashed the car, the insurance company who insured the car at the time of the theft sued the FBI to recoup as many damages as they could after the FBI destroyed the car, but a judge ruled in favor of the FBI and threw the case out. So that fateful phone call from Jazz was not the first time that this car's fate could have changed trajectory. Back in 2006, 2007, when it was still actively stolen, being driven around by Tom H. Baker, the JetBlue pilot who stole the car. He had it registered on Kentucky plates that said F50. He displayed the car at the Kentucky Keeneland Concours d'Elegance. And then one day he calls his friend Rex Tyler and he says, hey, listen, I'm going out of town for a week. Would you mind babysitting the F50 for me? And so Rex is like, of course, I'd love to. No problem at all. Tom Baker drops the car off at Rex. Rex told the story on Ferrari Chat, and then years later he contacted me, or he messaged me on Facebook and told me some additional details. He said when he went out to lunch and when he got back to work, the F50 was already at his job in the parking lot, sitting there, gleaming red, just waiting for him to drive this thing around for a week. So after work, he takes the car, he's driving around, he notices a cop car behind him, and he figures, all right, the cop thinks I'm gonna speed, so I'm just gonna take it easy, and he just cruises down the road, and before long, he sees a second cop car behind him. It's like, okay, maybe the guy called his buddy, you gotta come check this out, and a few minutes later, the cherries go off and he gets pulled over. So he pulls over, he's like, hey guys, how's it going? You know, what seems to be the problem? No, I wasn't speeding, I was just cruising along. It's not 2 cops anymore, it's like 6 cops now. And everybody's lights are going off and this is startling him. So they tell him that he pulled off out of the gas station without paying for gas. When the cop spoke to the lady at the gas station, she was like, no, I knew there was some sort of issue. I knew it wasn't, foul play, because when I saw that car, I was like, I know a $60,000 car when I see one, and that's real money right there, and somebody wouldn't just pull off out of a gas station in a $60,000 car. And he's like, you're thinking of somebody else. That wasn't me. I didn't fill up for gas. And the cop's like, no, I saw the video camera. I saw the engine inside the window in the back. It was definitely this car. And Rex was thinking, maybe you saw some other different car. And that's when he realized, you know what, let me call Tom and find out what's going on. So he calls Tom. Tom hasn't left town yet. And he's like, Tom, I just got pulled over. I'm driving this F50. I just left work and I got pulled over. And Tom is like shitting a brick on the phone. He's like, okay, what's going on? What do you mean? What's happening? They're saying I pulled out of a gas station without paying? And Tom is like, oh, thank God. It's like, oh, okay, I was on the phone when I was filling up. I must have forgot to pay. I'm gonna run down there and pay right now. The cops keep Rex on the side of the road with the F50 for, I guess, a little while Tom runs down to the gas station and pays for the gas. Then the gas station calls the cops, tells the cops, okay, everything's fine. The guy came in and paid for it. So they let Rex Tyler go with the F50. Had they just run the VIN or checked it or something, I guess they couldn't have, even if they did run the VIN. It was already registered in Kentucky. It was right there. It was right there. And I bet the Kentucky cops wouldn't have been so brash as to drive it from one location to another. And they probably would not have crashed it like the FBI crashed it.
Car fires make for great videos, but very bad days for car owners, and I protect my cars from fire by having an element extinguisher in every one of them for every mile. I actually got my first one from Freddie a few years ago as we were shooting Car Trek 1, where a fire was a very real risk, but it's always important to be protected. Element fire extinguishers weigh less than 1/10 of what a traditional fire extinguisher weighs, and they discharge 5 times longer. They also make no mess, and they never expire. So it's worth picking up a few to have around the garage, your house, and of course, in your car. They've got a special bundle offer right now during the month of May for our VINwiki viewers, but it's always a good time to buy a couple of these to keep you, your car, and your home safe. So check them out now at the link in the description below.